Welcome to another episode. What are you reading? What are you writing? A weekly video podcast features creatives, writers, and readers, and we come together to talk about books. I am your host, Karen E. Osborne, author of 4 novels and counting. I am so glad you're here. I think you're going to enjoy our next guest. We have such a fun guest today. Her name is Janet Hay Shawgo. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes.
Excellent. And and hey Janet. And Janet has got so many interesting projects and everything, but she has a new book that she wants to talk to you about that just came out. So we have so much to talk about. So she has 5 novels, or is it 6?
No, actually, I have 11.
Oh my goodness, you have to update your Amazon page, woman.
I guess so, but no, I have altogether with the new book coming out, it's 11 books.
Out to you. That is awesome. 11 books. That is so impressive. And her latest book is the book Who in her A Change in Destiny series, right? Book 2. So
Right.
I think we want to hear about both. But before we dive in to the things about your books, I was just so intrigued. You were a traveling nurse. And like you, I mean, I traveled every week, every single week for years. You know, every 3 to 4 days I was on the road for, years and years. And so tell everybody about your life as a traveling nurse.
I was a traveling nurse. I did high risk labor and delivery. I traveled for over 20 years. But I also have another background also. I was a homicide investigator at the sheriff's department. I went in with a group called the Special Crimes Unit. It was early on, in some of the shows that you see now on TV, like, the first 48 and those type of shows. It was even earlier into that. So I was a sergeant and was a homicide investigator. Hence some of my books, thrillers, nursing books for my nursing career, thrillers and murder mysteries from my career as a homicide investigator.
Wow. Oh my goodness. So I have to pause there. I'm sorry. You have to tell me how you went from being a homicide detective to investigator to being a nurse and then an author. I mean, whoa.
It started out, I started out as a nursing student, and due to finances and a few other things that happened to me along the way, I ended up not finishing my nursing degree but going into the police department. And then at one point I went back and finished my nursing degree. I've also gone to a couple of medical examiners offices just to visit to see how their officers handle death scenes and collect evidence, and then progressed on back to, after I got through working with law enforcement, I progressed back into nursing and began to travel. I have been all over the United States, from Alaska to Florida to Detroit, all over Texas, California, Colorado, New Mexico. I've been across the United States working. So it's always leaves you a lot of information and a lot of research. Like in my first nursing book, the Look for Me series, that book is set during the Civil War. So I actually walked the fields at Gettysburg. So I was able to draw some of the experiences that I had there. So that kind of crosses along, a vast time. World War II, I used my parents' experience when they lived through that. And then during 9/11, of course, that's a time where we all lived through. And then I progressed on from the nursing books into doing mysteries and thrillers and suspense.
Wow, so your life has given you so much fodder for great books. That is so very cool. So now you've had the second book out of this series, the Change in Destiny series. So give us just a little background on the first book and then tell us about the second.
All righty. I have them with me. Would you like to see them?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
A
Book
great
one is
cover.
called our artist at Black Rose does such a phenomenal job, and actually, this book won an award for the cover, so I'm very excited about that. A Change in Destiny: Dark Choices is about a set of not identical twins, but mirror image twins. There is a difference. I used mirror image because it's like almost they've been cloned. It's like the second, one twin, and the second twin is almost like she's cloned. So there's very, very little differences between them. And so these two, I say, whenever I sell this book to people, is that I believe that these ladies actually committed the perfect crime. And it leads from Charlie, the first twin, it leads from a abusive marriage, and Danny, her twin sister, helps her take care of that abusive marriage. So I feel like between the two of them that they have committed the perfect crime. Now then, there's a twist in this. Charlie's ex-fiance is the FBI agent that's investigating her husband for bank fraud. So that's kind of where this book picks up. A Change in Destiny, Dark Suspicion. This is where her ex fiance picks up on trying to find Charlie's husband. He's disappeared off the face of the earth. They're trying to, find him. They believe that she knows where he's at. And if she doesn't know, she's either done something with him, but there is no proof. So this is where this story leads. And it has a very interesting twist at the end of the book. We have people from the mafia involved. We have, some psychological problems that really does not come to surface till kind of into the, middle to end of the book. So a lot of twists and turns, and it's already getting some really good reviews. I've received several from Book Siren. I have several books out. People promising, once the book is released, then they'll jump on Amazon and give me a review, which is so important for all of us. As you know, reviews are, that's our lifeblood when we have a book out, is to get a review. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, but I take all reviews with, not a grain of salt, but to heart, because not everybody may like what I write, but it would be such a boring world if we all wrote the same thing. So some people will like something someone writes, they may not like what another person writes. So I just kind of have to listen and not let it not kind of brush it off my shoulders, take good information and then just let it brush off and go on, because you can't dwell
Yeah,
on it.
yeah. I personally don't write any reviews for anything less than 4 stars because I so appreciate what it takes to write a book and put yourself out there. So if I read something that I think if I was going to give it stars, it was a 3, I don't do it.
Yeah.
I will only write. It's not that everything I read I think is a 4 and 5. It's that that's all I will put out there. But my audience, trust me, they know how important reviews are because they hear it from me every week.
It's very difficult. I just came back from an event today, and the people that I spoke with, I just told them, I said reviews are very important. I said, I appreciate as an author if you can take just a moment to, say a few words, give it a rating, and please tell others about my books. I really do appreciate that. So you
Yes,
meet so many wonderful people.
You do. You meet so many wonderful readers on all of these events and different. It's terrific. So you mentioned the FBI agent, right? And his name is Brian, right? Brian Deeds.
Brian
So
Deeds.
tell us, yeah. So tell us what you like about Brian. What's cool about him?
He's handsome. And that's the first
It's
thing.
always a
He's
good place to start.
Yeah, he's very handsome. He has come back home. He was away training and he was in a different place, but he came back home to Houston. Home is where our heart is at. He just never expected to be involved in a case that would connect him with his ex-fiance, who he did love, but because of his career, that is pretty much what split them up. Is she wanted a home and a family, and he just wasn't able to give that to her. Therefore, Charlie's husband, Jonathan, stepped in and took over. And Jonathan was Brian's best friend in college. So we have a
Of
little bit of
course.
that. We have a little bit of that,
Yes.
bitterness and fighting in between. So, but
Yeah, a little
he's
competition.
absolutely, he's a very good man, but he becomes obsessed, and that's what this book, the second book, is about, is his obsession with this case. And it shows where you can go to a very dark side when you become obsessed with something. It doesn't even have to be law enforcement, it can be with anything.
Anything.
um, Love, anger with the family, you can really take a dark side if you're not careful.
That's true. That's good advice too. Obsession is not healthy. So you mentioned we were chit-chatting right before we started recording, and you mentioned that you have some other new interesting projects in the works. Can you tell us a little bit about them, or one of them at least?
Yes, I have several irons in the fire, so to speak. I have an ebook which is on Amazon called "You Just Can't," and I'm going to turn that ebook into a paperback. It'll be a small, probably a novelette size to have on my table when I go to events. I also am working on a kind of a historical fiction, which is another genre that I do like to write from time to time. And I'm wanting to call it My Sister's Quilt, and it will involve quilt making, the meaning of
Mm,
quilts, and the sisterhood that comes from that. It's not just family, but if you ever have been around quilters, that's a strong sisterhood of people that can take that much time, and it is so detailed and tedious to make a quilt, and it is a labor of love. So that's kind of what I'm trying to work on that book with. And then I have a series called the Creechville Chronicles, and it's going to be a paranormal humor comedy, and it has some fantastic characters in it. I'm just really excited about getting that out. This series could go for, a number of books, 8, 9, 10 books, because it has such a good connection from one book to the other. So I'm really working hard on that. I like humor, I like history, and I tell people, unfortunately, I do enjoy killing people in my books also from time to time. So it's kind of a wide spread here between history, saving people, making you laugh, and killing somebody. So
very cool. To admit, I do too. I do kill people, it's and like you, I have a wide variety of genres that I write, so I totally respect that and get that.
I mean,
So
sometimes it just has to be done, right?
this has to be done. You gotta go, fella. So one of the things you and I talked about when we met, so Janet and I had an opportunity to meet earlier, several months ago. And you fascinated me besides your books and your personality. You were telling me that you sell your books at these fairs and non-book fairs, non-book events. And I was so puzzled by that because it seemed to me that, you want to be someplace where readers are coming because they love to read books. So you promised me that you'd share a little bit about that because lots of the audience are writers.
Absolutely. This is something that's very important. All authors, please listen to what I'm going to tell you because this is huge. And especially now that the Christmas season is past and we're starting into this new year, there will be festivals. There are festivals almost every weekend in every state in the United States. You can go to websites and look up festivals, craft festivals, um, Oktoberfest, Springfest, spring festivals. You can stand out because there are not a lot of authors that always go to art shows or craft shows, and you will stand out and people will stop. If you have a nice table setting, get your banners up where people can see you. If you have an awards, make a banner that says award-winning author so that they will stop to talk to you. I have a very good friend that writes children's book. She writes about the tooth fairy and she dresses up like a tooth fairy. She has a halo with all these neat things in it. She wears wings, she wears dresses. It brings people to your table. I have costumes where I dress as a World War II nurse or a Civil War nurse. I have an identical twin sister who also sits at the table with me. That pulls people to the table. Be able to talk to your potential readers. Hi, come up. How are you? What do you like to read? Let me tell you about my books. Get excited about what you write because that's what will get people to your table. You don't have to have a lot of giveaways. I've learned this over the year.
Mm.
It's nice to have them, but it's not necessary. If you have a good quality book, if you're able to connect with this individual that's coming up. And I promise there's always somebody that's going to go, oh, yeah, I need a new book, and what do you write? And, tell me a little bit about your book, try to have that 2-minute log line for all your books. It's hard sometimes, but when I talk to people, I go, I write historical fiction, I write humor, I'm listed in an anthology about tales of Texas. I have mystery thrillers, something at some point they'll go, oh, I like that. So you can kind of push the others aside and focus on what they like to read and really, puff the chest out and this book is about this and I really like these characters and I think you would love this book and be able to connect with those people. But I started working on festivals the end of September this past year, and I worked the end of September, all of October, all of November, and I did a final event December 10th. So I was very busy. It was almost every weekend or every other weekend. And it's very hard sometimes when you go to a new festival to know whether you will sell out or how many books to have.
Mm.
I've had to reorder books 3 times since the end of September to cover what I have sold. And there was a market in Galveston called the Moody Market. I do that pretty much every year. And we had to stop and order books because I ran out of books.
Wow.
I sold 115 books in 2 days.
That is remarkable. That is such, well, I hope all of you are just taking notes on this, all my fellow writers out there. That is really great news. Thank you so much. Thank you for that little tutorial. It is excellent. So we are, what are you reading? What are you writing? So I wonder if you could share one kind of book that maybe has had an impact on your writing, and then another category of books that you recently read that you could recommend.
What's had a large effect on me is I don't know if any of the authors out there happen to know Jody Thomas. She writes historical novels. They're westerns usually, and they're love stories. I met her in Amarillo with a lady that I went to school with named Dewana Pace. Dewana has passed away since I first she first started writing and talking about her books. But those two ladies are what inspired me to actually sit down
Mm,
and start writing. They said you can do it, and so
mm.
I took their words and encouragement and did go ahead and start writing. I didn't exactly write the same type of books they did, but I did take their encouragement.
Encouragement, yeah. So have you read something recently that you can share with our audience?
Oh, I have. I've read a couple of authors that I haven't before. The first one is Timothy Soka. He is an author with Black Rose Writing. I met him at the conference we were at, and so he told me his book was coming out, and I said, well, I would like to have it. This may be backwards, but it's called
Oh, it
Claws,
looks
and
good. Looks good.
it it's really a fun book. It's a good book. It's a very interesting book. I will give you a little bit of a spoiler. There is information there about child trafficking. So if you're tenderhearted, this might be a little rough, but it does have a happy ending. But it's really unique. So I really enjoyed that. I've also started a series from award-winning best-selling author Danielle Paquette Harvey. It's called the Blood and Kisses novel, and the first one is The Cursed King, and her second book that I just finished is called The Awakening. These are dark fantasy books, which I'm not usually a big reader of
Mm.
dark fantasy, but I have connected with Danielle via Instagram and TikTok, and we have become author friends. And so I started her books, and I got through with The Awakening and got so upset because book three won't be out until sometime this year. So I told her, I said, well, now I know how people feel when I have a book that isn't out yet. So, but both of those books are really interesting. Um, it's filled the Cursed King is filled full of fays and werewolves and dwarves and vampires and politics, and it's a really interesting, it kept me turning the pages. So yeah, both of those authors, I would strongly suggest that you pick those books up and read them. They're really good.
Thank you. Thank you. So now you've got everybody wanting to meet you, Janet. Everybody wants to come and see you at one of these fairs. So tell us how they can find you. What's the best way online that they can find out about you, be in touch with you?
I have a website. It's www.jkshawgo.com. That's my website. I am on TikTok at Janet Shawgo Author. I'm also on Instagram under, I'll have to look. You can just put Janet Shawgo in and you'll probably find me. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Any of those you can probably get in touch with me, leave me a message, or you can email me directly at janetshago@gmail.com. I would love to hear from people. I enjoy giving information. If you are wondering about what to do with a book setup and how you want to set your table and what it should look like, I do have pictures that I will be more than happy to send you to give you any kind of you know, heads up and a big boost to get your books out there. You do have to invest a little money sometimes in like posters and banners, but there's no better way. People, get your face up there where people can see you.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. And I thank all of you for watching. And I hope when you follow Janet, when you get in touch with her through her Gmail account or you go on her website and be in touch with her, that you will let her know you met her on what are you reading? What are you writing? Until next week, everybody, thank you so much for being with us. Bye bye.